In the Bekaa Valley of modern Lebanon, the sun rises over ruins that have no right to exist on this earth. The Temple of Jupiter at Heliopolis stands as a monument to a scale of ambition that terrifies the modern mind. Even in decay, its fallen columns and fractured architraves whisper of a presence that history has tried to forget. You approach the sacred precinct not through a door, but through a silence so heavy it presses against your chest. The 6 remaining columns of the great court soar 60 feet into the hot air, each cut from a single block of stone. But these pillars, as immense as they are merely the children of the true enigma hidden below. 3 colossal stones, known as the Trilithon, rest in the western wall of the temple platform with a weight that shatters comprehension. Each block measures over 60 feet in length, nearly 14 feet in height, and 12 feet in depth. To stand beside one is to feel your own body reduced to a grain of sand in an hourglass of giants. The known weight of a single stone in the Trilithon surpasses 800 tons, an engineering feat that modern cranes would struggle to lift. The quarries of Baalbek, half a mile distant, hold an even greater horror called the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. That abandoned leviathan, still fused to the bedrock, weighs an estimated 1,200 tons. No wheel, no axle, and no rope known to classical antiquity should have been able to move even a fraction of that mass. The Romans, for all their aqueducts and paved roads, left no written word explaining how this weight was tamed. History tells us the temple was raised by the empire to honor Jupiter Optimus Maximus Heliopolitanus, a syncretic god of sky and thunder. Emperor Augustus himself is said to have funded the complex, transforming a local shrine into a statement of cosmic authority. Pilgrims journeyed from the edges of the map to consult the oracle within, seeking wisdom whispered by the wind through cracks in the stone. The architecture follows the grand proportion of the Corinthian order. Every acanthus leaf chiseled with a precision that rivals Rome itself. Yet the logic of the podium betrays a primal engineering that does not belong to the polished logic of Augustus or Trajan. The Roman masons built their glory upon a terrace of cyclopean masonry that was already old when the legions first arrived. Geological analysis confirms the stone is local limestone, extracted from the same ridge that cradles the temple. But the method of transport across the valley floor remains a void in the record of human capability. Imagine a block of stone heavier than a fully loaded jumbo jet dragged by silent hands across raw earth with no paved Roman road to smooth the way. Some archaeologists theorize the use of massive wooden rollers and capstans, turned by thousands of synchronized slaves hauling on hemp ropes. Calculations suggest it would take the combined pull of 40,000 men to budge the largest of these stones from inertia. Where on that narrow limestone plateau could you array 40,000 laborers without the ground collapsing into chaos? The soil around the ancient quarry holds no trace of a hardened military road sturdy enough to carry such a concentrated weight. A counter-theory points to a lost system of pulley blocks and multiple wooden cranes, lifting the stone one torturous inch at a time. But no surviving Roman crane has a lifting capacity even 1/10 of what the Trilithon demands. The very technology of the time, as we understand it, crumbles against the arithmetic of necessity. The silence of the builders forces us into a chilling question. Did the Romans merely roof over a sanctuary built by hands far older? Local legends told by the Arab chroniclers speak not of emperors, but of a terrified king named Solomon who enslaved demons to raise this citadel. These myths, though fantastic, carry the scent of a cultural memory too vast to be contained by ordinary history. A broken stele found nearby depicts a deity standing not on a mountain, but on a scale model of immense masonry blocks. The carvings suggest that the act of building the platform was itself a sacred drama, a ritual reenactment of the creation of the world. Priests of Heliopolis may have watched the stone's impossible journey and seen not engineering, but a miracle choreographed by the thunder god. We are left with a foundation that predates writing, assembled with a hubris that the empire of marble could only inherit. The sanctuary's orientation locks into a celestial grid, its axis aligned to the rising sun at the summer solstice with breathtaking accuracy. Whoever laid the first stone was mapping not just the Bekaa Valley, but the architecture of the heavens themselves. This is where the labyrinth of theory splits into two dark tunnels, each leading to a different flavor of the impossible. The first tunnel is Roman audacity absolute, a forgotten chapter of mechanical genius buried by the collapse of the Western Empire. Proponents of this view search for a lost treatise, an Alexandrian scroll describing a floating lever or a counterweight system of demonic complexity. They argue that Roman engineers at Baalbek achieved a temporary super capability, a Manhattan Project-like concentration of brain power never replicated. The wreckage of a great lifting tower, supposedly erected inside the podium as the walls rose, might have been absorbed into the rubble core. But physical verification would require dismantling a standing Roman monument, an act of archaeological vandalism no scholar will permit. The second tunnel is darker, suggesting the Trilithon is a remnant of a civilization erased from the fossil record by a global cataclysm. This pre-Roman, pre-Phoenician culture would have possessed a motive power we cannot reconstruct, perhaps using sound vibration or magnetic flux. Mainstream science recoils from this hypothesis, calling it a fantasy born of our addiction to lost Atlantis myths. And yet, the same science cannot point to a single Roman quarry contract or imperial order of battle that accounts for the Trilithon's movement. The official record of the Roman Empire, so meticulous in its census and military dispatches, maintains a total bureaucratic blank around this architectural nightmare. A darker nuance emerges when we study the Stone of the South, an even larger block discovered recently in the quarry, still hiding under the soil. Weighing over 1,650 tons, it indicates the builders intended an even more terrifying scale that was suddenly abandoned. What fear gripped them? What cataclysm interrupted the transport of a block that outweighed 3 blue whales? The tool marks on the abandoned stone reveal a methodical chiseling by human hands, not the thermal lances of speculative science fiction. Yet the uniformity of the chisel strokes suggests a pace of work devoid of hesitation, as if the workers were executing a protocol they had perfected over millennia. The human element of this mystery is written on the faces of the antiquarians who measured these stones by lantern light in the 19th century. They came searching for the classical ideal and found themselves staring at a power that crushed their whole conception of civilization. The German archaeological mission of the early 1900s dismantled entire Ottoman villages to clear the debris, obsessed with revealing the full footprint of the podium. You can still read the anxiety in their journals, a fear that they were unearthing not a temple, but a machine. The obsession calcifies into a personal quest for anyone who has touched the limestone surface under a full moon. It becomes a labyrinth of the psyche, a haunting by the engineering dead, a whisper that the ancients knew something about the nature of matter that we have forgotten. During the Lebanese Civil War, the temple complex became a silent fortress again, the massive stones oblivious to the small arms' fire chipping at their patina. Those ancient blocks offered soldiers on both sides a trauma no bullet could match, the creeping awareness of their own impermanence. Local families who lived for centuries in the shadow of the Acropolis incorporated the fallen Roman granite into their mud brick homes. They never treated the blocks as treasure. They treated them as a geological feature, like a mountain range that bled, one day, a city. To walk the processional way today is to hear the echo of a dialectic between the human need to worship and the inhuman scale of the offering. We must sit with the discomfort that our entire historical model for technological evolution is contradicted by a single terrace wall. The Roman poets sang of their golden age, yet never once did Virgil or Ovid boast of moving a mountain onto a plain. The human obsession with Baalbek is really an obsession with our own amnesia, a terror that our ancestors were giants, and we are the withered remnants. An archaeologist once confided that measuring the Trilithon felt like measuring a sarcophagus lid for a god. The psychosphere of the sanctuary gnaws at the rational mind, because here the physics of the possible died a silent death. You stand before the 6 columns and feel an architectural vertigo, not from their height, but from the historical vacuum beneath them. The researchers who dedicate their lives to solving this riddle develop a unique form of humility, a bruised consciousness in the presence of pure mass. They debate pulley logistics in sterile conference halls, but at night they dream of the crushing sound a limestone block makes when it finally obeys a whispered command. There is a comfort in believing history is a solved puzzle until you place your palm against the stone and feel a vibration that has not stopped for 2,000 years. The temple complex has absorbed so much human longing that the air itself seems heavy with the static of unanswered prayer. Every generation projects its own anxiety onto the Trilithon. The Victorians saw lost steam power, the moderns see an extraterrestrial intervention, and the ancients saw the fist of their creator. The truth lies somewhere in the blind spot at the center of our gaze, a geometry of construction we are too proud to relearn from scratch. Perhaps the builders leveraged a deep understanding of resonance, sliding these titans on a film of water or a cushion of compressed air we dismiss as impossible. Or perhaps, as the oral poetry of the Bedouins insists, the stones walked because a sage commanded the very angels to carry the house of heaven on their wings. We cannot import a truth that erases the physical evidence. The stone is real, the quarry is real, and the journey is a mathematical certainty that lacks a known variable. The Romans wrote extensively about their siege towers and their wine vintages, but they wrapped this single sanctuary in a cloak of terrified silence. Was it a secret weapon of the imperial cult or a secret shame, an achievement they did not want their enemies to realize could be replicated? As the afternoon shadow stretches from the standing columns into the valley, the entire site becomes a sundial for a type of time we can no longer read. The enduring enigma is not a crime to solve, but a mirror reflecting the limits of human knowledge back into a truly infinite sky. We tell ourselves that time reveals all things, but here time has layered so much dust that the truth has become part of the bedrock. The sanctuary of Jupiter Heliopolitanus now sleeps in a state of ruined grandeur, its god silent, its architects dust, its message jammed in a frequency we lost. To witness the Trilithon is to be placed at the end of an immense corridor of time, looking back at a door that is just slightly too heavy for civilization to reopen. The mystery will endure not because we lack the will to solve it, but because the very act of moving such mass belongs to a state of being that our era cannot inhabit. You carry the weight of Baalbek with you. When you leave, a stone phantom lodged in the stomach, a constant hum of the unattainable. No definitive answer will set you free from the longing for a past where humanity stood taller, worked larger, and whispered louder into the void. The final secret of the Temple of Jupiter at Heliopolis is that its greatest monument is not the stone that remains, but the human capacity to forget. Somewhere in the crushed limestone and mica, a lost instruction set for the human soul is hidden, waiting for a future earthquake to reveal it. The stars wheel over the 6 columns, the same stars that watched the first block shift, and the still air holds the breath of the engineers. We will map every grain, date every coarse sample, and build computer models that simulate the lift, but we will never feel the rhythm of their certainty. The silence that flows out of the Bekaa Valley is the truest language of the sanctuary, a sermon on the sublime hubris of building a throne for infinity. To the Romans who inherited it, to the explorers who excavated it, and to you who now hold its image in your mind, Baalbek remains the Earth's unanswered question. A question carved not in paper or code, but in 3 blocks of living stone that shift ever so slightly in the deep heat of the Middle Eastern night, still waiting for an answer that never comes.